Okay, hey everybody. 8-Bit Music Theory here. Last time I did transcription video, I said that in the next one I would transcribe some chords. And this is this is sort of going to be like that. I might do another episode later where I listen to a song where there are chords being played on like a guitar or piano or whatever, and then transcribe those. This is a little bit different. I'm transcribing a lot of Pokemon Gold and Silver music lately, for no particular reason. Just kidding, obviously. But I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of talk about how I use chord symbols, especially using this music as an example, because there are no chords in the old Pokemon games, right? Because it's only 3 notes at once, which I guess you can make a chord of 3 notes at once, but it's usually very contrapuntal. You know, it's a lot of just separate melody lines going at once. So, but the way I think about chord symbols is a little different than just your typical oh yeah, he plays a G chord, so I'll put G. You know, going to jazz school, you get taught to think about it a little differently. So well, I'll show you what I mean. This is a Crutiac City, I don't know how you say it, and Cyanwood City theme by Go Ichinose, who is a boss. So basically, you know, take the first few bars. You have, well, I'll play it for you. So there's no chords being played, right? You just have a bass line and then this little, whatever you call it, trill. That's not a chord. They're just single notes. But it implies harmony, because you can't write really, well, if you're not trying to write atonal music, excuse me, it's very difficult to write a line that doesn't imply an inherent harmony. We'll say that. And this stuff is very much trying to imply harmony because, you know, it doesn't have the option of just showing you the harmony. So it's got to imply it. So if you look here, this is a C chord with an added second in a nice open inversion, very Chopin, you know. And so, well, this one's kind of an easy example because you could just, it's an arpeggio of a chord, basically. So we can put C add 2. Add 32. That's what I want. Oh yeah, you just add the 32nd of the chord? Yep. So, and then this just is the same notes of the chord, just spread out a little differently. Not even, actually. It's just a few octaves up and the rhythm is different. And then here, what is that? An F? So this would be, if you take all the notes in the arpeggio, it's just an F major 7 over C. Easy. Here's where it gets a little bit trickier. We have an A flat. Now, this is clearly implying, this is just for ease of reading. Oops. Here we have D, C, and A flat, which is kind of like an F minor 6, D half diminished type of sound, you know. That's being applied melodically, but the bass is still holding on to this E. So we can just say that that's a melodic embellishment for now. But that's the sort of thing where, you know, well, we'll get to some good examples of it later, I think. I actually didn't check if this piece was a good vehicle for this sort of thing. Get rid of all the extra stuff there. So here we have some actual chords. G, D7, G7. Now you may be thinking, why would I put G, D7, G7? There isn't even a D in this chord, and there isn't a G in this chord. Now, this is what I'm talking about. So chord symbols really are just labels for a tonality, a sound. Like a C add 2 sounds like C add 2. And there are different ways to achieve that sound. You can either just play it, or you can do this and arpeggiate it. Or, you can say you don't have say you've been playing like a C power chord, and then you stop, and then just play those two notes. Not like that. Depending how on the context, you might hear the whole musical phrase as a C add 2. So here, this is obviously a G. There's no D in it, but the fifth of a chord is usually the least important to the overall sound. Like, it doesn't sound like a different chord at all, So this is technically an F sharp diminished, so we could put that. But an F sharp diminished and a D7 are basically the same. Like, it just, it's a little less stable without the D, and then G7, this is technically a B, a B diminished. But it's setting up a move to C. Like, it's functionally, it's a 5 chord, right? And right after it, you get this G in the melody, and the bass walks down to a G, even though it's at the very end of the bar, not like on a strong beat or anything. I feel like you still hear these whole two beats as one G7 chord, even though it's not very explicit, And then this is like clearly like the way the what do you call it? The voice leading moves, that G, F sharp to F. There you go. That's like what makes the secondary dominant of D7 to G7. That's what makes that sound the way it does. So you have all the elements of D7 that are important, you just don't have the root. And that does change the sound a little bit, so it's probably better to put F sharp diminished. But for me, I think of it like this. And I wouldn't as I usually say in these transcription videos, I go back and forth on like how I do things a lot. Sometimes I'll be more literal, sometimes I'll be more functional in my chord progressions, especially because this, like, if you were going to play this sheet music on piano or whatever, I've got my coffee here. First of all, good luck. But second of all, you're not going to play the chords as well, It's just for analysis. And if you were, I want to jam with my bud and he has a guitar and he'll play the chord symbols or whatever, like, you could do that, but then, then here he'd probably want to play a D7, not an F sharp diminished, you know what I mean? Not that it would matter really, but so anyway, that's kind of the weird thing that I do, or how I think about it. I think about the chord symbols in terms of their function and relative to the harmony. So I got to fill in the rest of these chord symbols, so let's go through here. I just finished transcribing this. I haven't thought about what the chords are really. I mean, in the process of transcribing it, I know some of them, but... So this one's obviously a C add 2. Could even just put C there, like, the add 2. It's just a color of C major, but it's a specific color, so I figure I'll put it. This is a C sharp diminished, and we know that because this, well, first of all, this arpeggio. Well, actually, it's not so clear cut, I guess. This is kind of a weird bar, actually. I didn't really notice. Excuse me. These three notes are very C sharp diminished, and it's leading to a D minor in the next, like, spoiler alert, this is a D minor here. I'll fill that in, actually, because that's easy. It's a D minor 9, we'll say. D minor 8, yeah, you add the octave above. No. Outline of an A minor triad. That's classic over a minor 9 chord. And then the second up to the third, yeah. So that's a D minor 9. And we know the whole purpose of this bar harmonically is to push us into D minor 9. So really you could think of it as an A7 flat 0, flat 9. I gotta look at my fingers when I type. Because functionally that's what it is. And if you look, it pretty much is that harmonically too, especially with this like, you got the D going down to the C sharp. That's a very like sus 5 to regular 5 sounding move, you know? Like if I play it, it's very, you know. It evokes that sound, so it's not unreasonable to put it. But there's no A, you know. A like pretty much anywhere in this bar. There's this A, but that doesn't really affect the sound much. So should probably put C sharp diminished, except for my problem that I just realized is that this is the major third over C sharp. Very major. So technically I guess it's a C sharp 7. Oh no, it's not even. So it really is functioning like an A7 flat 13 flat 9, which is very common. That's a very common type of dominant chord to lead to the D, or to, you know, a minor tonic, because like, you know, the flat 9 and the flat 13 of A7 are B flat and F. And in D minor, you know, the key signature, you have a B flat and an F. So it's this is a super common, you know, 5-to-1 in a minor key. And this is a secondary dominant leading to our minor chord here. So it's really the only thing about this that doesn't scream, you know, A7 is the lack of an A chord. But it doesn't really make sense to put C sharp diminished with this, you know, F. So I'm just going to put this maybe over C sharp. Maybe I'll look at my fingers when I type because I'm a child. Yeah, I'll put that. Why not? Hey, you see, it's very like open to interpretation in this way. Because you could put like C sharp 6, flat 5, I guess. This is the 1, the 6, the flat 5, and the 3. But then it goes to the minor third. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, so this is what I'm talking about here, where it's kind of weird how I do it. I don't just, like, if you just say we took this bar and we said, how do you do it? It's like chord symbols, add from notes, start of every bar. Okay, I did nothing. What did I do wrong? Come on. Well, here, we'll do this. Add from notes. Okay, come on. What's the matter here? See, it doesn't even know. I guess that's the problem, is it doesn't know how to do it. Well, we'll say it every beat. Yeah, see, it doesn't. I guess because there's no chord, technically. It's just 2 notes at a time. But it definitely implies harmony, so that's my conundrum here. So anyway, halfway through this bar, we get an A flat. So this definitely outlines like an F minor type thing, even though there's no F in the bass. And honestly, like, the way that we hear music is very much like, I like to think of it as like innocent till proven guilty. So you can hit this D at the beginning of the bar, and as long as you don't hit another new bass note or do anything too crazy in the harmony, we're going to hear the D as being the underlying root of whatever is happening for the whole bar. So I'm going to end up putting D half diminished like that, because that's what it sounds like. You know, even though there's no D playing, technically it's like an F minor over A flat, but that's not what it feels like, so this is how I think about it. If this is making you mad, you're like, this is not how I was taught, and I hate it. That's fair. I'm not saying anyone else should do it the way I do it, but I think like this is helpful for analytical purposes. You know, not for necessarily playing purposes or for describing exactly what's happening, because you don't need the chord symbols to tell you exactly what the notes are doing if you already have the notes written down, right? But functionally, this is what's happening. So here we have kind of like a C. Well, the bass is outlining a G flat 9, G7 flat 9, I mean, which makes sense. But it's kind of like a sus. There's no B until, what is that, a D? Yeah. Until here. Here's the first B. And this is like a, it's leaning on that C pretty hard. So I'm going to say, you know what, well, here's what we could do. We could do 13 sus flat 9. Like that. Because we have the sus4, it kind of chromatically moves up to the D, but that's just a melodic embellishment. We have this 13 present, but it's, you know, and then, well, here's what I'll do. It's kind of a C over G, right? Like, that's a C chord. Oops. With a G in the bass. So it is kind of a C over G. And then here's where the flat 9 comes in and where the E resolves down to the D. And the C sharp resolves up to the D. So this is kind of the beat. It's like anticipating moving, changing chords halfway through the bar, which is pretty typical. So I actually like to leave the anticipation to the notes and put the chord symbols just, you know, on every half bar or wherever they fall, because, you know, again, that's analytically accurate in my estimation. So then this is G7 flat 9, basically. Even though it's, and like I said, it's kind of tricky because the 7 shows up here, but that still affects how we hear the rest of the bar. So, like, I wouldn't consider it incorrect to put just a big G13 flat 9 sus to G13 or whatever, G7 flat 9. Like, have the G7 flat 9 part over here as well, and then only change the sus part over here. But, you know, this works just as well. Pretty much the same. Ooh, things are getting pushed around here. What do you optimize? There you go. Okay, so moving on. Here we have another C. This is pretty much the same. It looks like. Oh, that's not the same. So we'll add this. Have I played I'll play the A section for you. Oops, that's not what I want. It's so messy here with the 3 different notes. No spoilers, eh? So this is clearly, oops, another C add 2. This sucks with having 3 separate voices, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. And if I left this in the bass clef, it was like ledger line central. So I thought about maybe putting it in treble clef for 2 beats, but that's pretty stupid. So I don't know. I figured this is as good as it's gonna get, I guess, and as far as clarity. So this is the same kind of deal. We're super heavily outlining the flat 13 and the flat 9, but it's kind of like a suspension where or not a suspension, but an appoggiatura, where it's like a dissonance that resolves, you know, accent and dissonance, and that resolves to nice chord tones. But basically the same harmony, basically, you know, it's doing the same thing. Now this is a little different. It's the same figure, just an octave up, but then here we have an F in the bass and no D. So this is really an F major 7. You know, because it's not like up here it's pretty much a D7, but with this sort of thing, without the root, it really does not sound like a D minor, you know. Well, yeah, no, it sounds super major, right? Yeah, and then here it's very F centric. You even get a nice big F chord, F triad right there. And then here is, what is this? That's like a E. It's F, E, and this is outlining like a... So that's just embellishing. Like I talked about in my Dolphin Shoals transcription video, this is just an enclosure of a G. So you don't have to worry that like, why is there an F sharp in this bar? Because it's just embellishing the G. You don't have to worry about that in the chord symbol. Just want to get the big generalized, like this is sort of the tonality that sounds like. So it definitely sounds like a G sus to a G, normal G. And what is this? This is a, right, this is an E. Oh, but this, that's why. This, we have a nice A, C to E. So even though there's no fourth, which usually would be in a sus chord, it sounds like a sus, partially because the pickup notes do have a fourth, and because this kind of 6 to 5 melodic motion, you know, still gives the same. It's a weaker version of the sus4 to regular 3. You know, it's the same sort of idea, but just it's not a half step, so it doesn't have that same oomph, you know. And then we get the third here, so it's, you know, functionally this is, it's going for the sound, and that's what it sounds like, so that's what I'm gonna put. Now here it gets kind of easier because we just have this arpeggiated figure up top. So if you look, the bass is doing F, and the figure up here is outlining in an A minor trad. What do you get when you combine those two? F major 7. Boom. Easy. Whoops. That's not what I want. Let's optimize again. Yeah, okay. It's nicer. Now here, now this is kind of interesting. Well, should I play it first or should I keep going and then play it after? I'll keep going. You guys stick around if you want to hear it. Jeez, I'm like a monkey just slapping the keyboard. Right, so we still have an F in the bass. Oh, okay, I have to play it because it sounds really good. I love that. That's so cool. And this too. So this is really nice because it kind of has that G over F sound, that like Lydian. That's sort of the vibe, but not quite. It's actually more like, that's kind of a bad voicing, but because there's no G in it, it's actually an A, D, and B. Weird little cluster thing over an F, and the melody too, D walking down to B, up to F. So, and this is where we're getting into, this is a chord symbol I don't like. If I could put G over F because that's the sound, you know, that's the vibe. But it's more accurate to say that it's an F6, whoops, flat 5, which I hate because this is not like a good, this doesn't tell you good information. This tells you like a voicing that you could play. But it doesn't tell you like, you know, what scale to use, because what the hell scale does a F6 flat 5 imply? I guess it's really a sharp 11. Yeah, because you have a C in here. So it is a sharp 11. F6 sharp 11 though, that sounds stupid. You know what, I'm going to put G over F. Yeah. So, yeah. Because that's what it sounds like, G over F. If I see G over F and it's not resolving to C, like C over E even, you know, well, I mean, it depends on context, but in something like this, you know that's like, oh yeah, I want a Lydian thing. It's a Lydian thing. If you're soloing over these chord changes, you know, oh yeah, this is like an F Lydian thing. Not that you wouldn't assume that already just from a major 7, because you're a big jazz nerd, presumably, if you're soloing over these changes. Nectar of the gods. But yeah, like that tells you something about the underlying scale that's being implied. F6 usually implies an Ionian thing, a major thing. And, sharp 11 always implies Lydian. So saying F6 sharp 11 it looks really wrong to me. Like major 7 sharp 11 is a stock. That's, you see that everywhere. But F6 sharp 11 seems like it's too preachy. It's like, don't play the major 7, because if it want, like, it seems like it's like, when you're a jazz musician reading chord symbols and you see a major 7 chord, you're not like, okay, well, I better play some, a voicing with these 4 notes, F, A, C, E. Like, no. You're going to put the 9 in if you want. You'll put the sharp 11 in if you want. You'll put the 13 in if you want. You'll do whatever you want because, it's improv. And this is like, yeah, do whatever you want, but if you want to sound the way it's supposed to sound, then you got to make some Lydian thing happen, like a sus Lydian thing. But if you have like an F6 sharp 11, it's like the only reason you didn't write F major 7 sharp 11 is because you really care that I don't put the major 7 in there. It's so it sort of has that vibe of like, I want you to play it this way, which I hate. Like, why, why? There's no reason to write down chord symbols like that. Just write down exactly what you want played with notes if you want it played one exact way. And since we have the notes here, that's not what these chord symbols are for. So, after that super long rant, in conclusion, we're leaving it like that. Okay, so this is an E minor 7. That's easy. You got a G triad over an E bass. And then this is an A minor arpeggio over an A. So that could be a couple different things. No, I'm just kidding. Now I love this bar, because we have the bass does this chromatic walk down thing where it goes A flat. Oh. It's kind of setting up like walking back down to F, But then it subverts your expectations, which is cool, which I forgot about. But even when it moves to A flat, the harmony doesn't bend itself over backwards to try and accommodate that. It's just like, no, I'm playing A minor. You're a big boy. You can handle this weird flat 9 dissonance. It's really, and all the old Pokemon music is written like this, where it's 3 completely independent lines. It's counterpoint, really. That just work together, weave in between each other, and yeah. So this is why I think it's interesting to analyze the harmony, because it's so much up to interpretation. There's no one just playing, an F6 flat 5 chord. But yeah, so I'm not gonna, this is just a bass chromatic embellishment. We don't need to worry about that. Stick to 1 chord per bar. Now here it's the sub for the F major 7 chord that you would expect after that bass move. It goes down to D with an F triad, so D minor 7. G with a G triad. This is kind of funny because we have the sus4 here, but the regular third is like immediately played in the accompaniment. So I'm chalking this up to melodic embellishment in appoggiatura again, where it's just an accented dissonance that resolves. So G, no 7, no extension. Why? Oh, because of this B flat down here. And then it, resolves up to C. C major 7, I'll say, because the bass does this arpeggio up to the 7th. Now this is cool. It's a C sharp diminished arpeggio. Oh, this is tough, actually. Oh no, that's an A, right? Or is that an F? That's an F. It's hard with all these ledger lines. Oh, that's super weird and gross. Huh. I mean, it's obviously a C sharp diminished because of this high accompaniment part. And like this is outlining a C sharp diminished chord too, so it's super strong. But here we have the flat 9 resolving down to the 1, so that's, a pretty typical melodic resolution. Then we have the major third going up to the flat fifth. So it's really, I guess it's operating off of a half whole diminished scale. That's usually used to imply dominant chords. So using a diminished with that scale as a underlying thing is super weird. Anyway. Not super weird, just not super common in the jazz tradition that I was brought up in, I guess. Not that I grew up liking jazz music even. I don't think I listened to jazz for fun until like right before I started university. But there's no rock study degrees, eh? No video game music degrees, so. And this is the same thing. F major 7. I digress. F. I'll put G over F again because I'm a jerk. E minor 7. A minor. That's nice. That's nice. And then another D minor 7. G and C. I like this a lot that it's a... Well, I'll play the whole thing for you. I like it a lot because it's not an even 4-bar. It ends off with a 7-bar melodic phrase, and the 8th bar is the first bar of the intro. So let's listen to the whole thing. Let's see. See if you can hear what I'm talking about, where each bar sounds like these chords, even though we're never actually hearing a full, chord being played. See if you can tell what I'm talking about. So hype. Bring back. Oh yeah. I feel like this is begging for like a lo-fi hip-hop remix, I'm sure there's a ton out there of this song already, actually. See, it's so perfect. Such a nice way to repeat back. All right, well let's do another one here. Okay, we're also gonna go through the surf theme, one of my favorite tracks in this soundtrack. Because the harmony is very cool. I don't know if it's gonna be hard to figure out or like very up to interpretation or anything, but it's very cool. So first we're going to make it look a little nicer, since we're going to be staring at it for like 15 minutes. And then we are going to optimize and reset the note spacing so it looks very nice. Okay, so that's the A section. This is the intro. It's a B. This is pretty easy. Now, actually, this is kind of cool. You have the rising, very pretty. This is interesting because this line rises up to the root and then keeps going, but it's not really part of the harmony almost. Like, we have the B flat in the bass, the 5 pedal, and then here we have the 5th and the 4th, so it's very... Oh, and it jumps up to the 7th. So it outlines like a B flat 7 sus. And that's what it sounds like. And now we could say B flat 7 sus, and then B flat 9 sus, because we have the 9th here, and then B flat 11, because we have the 3rd, and then, do it like that, but that's not helpful, Like, you can see the notes, so you can tell the melody's doing that, and it doesn't sound like the chord is changing, it's a pedal, right? So this is this is fine for this whole first 4 bars. Maybe actually here we'll change it to B flat 7 normal. Because it does outline a very straight up B flat 7 thing. And that's us given out to the third. That's what it sounds like. Anyway, so it's sort of open to interpretation. It's more just like preference of keeping it clean. Don't want extra chord progression or chord symbols that you don't need cluttering up the music. Here, very clearly an E flat chord. You got E flat triad, and then E flat, everything. Yeah, I want to change the color. That would be perfect. To E flat color. So very E flat E. Oops, I want to do that. So yeah, E flat for 2 bars. Nothing really changes except for the melody, which is beautiful, by the way. I'll play it. Yeah. Okay, so we got E flat. Now here, D flat, but then this stays the same. And the accompaniment all stays the same except for all the E flats are replaced with D flats. And there's a big G in the melody. It's very, so really the chord is D flat, G, and B flat, which is like a G diminished over D flat, sort of. But that's not how it sounds. It doesn't sound like a diminished chord. It sounds like an E flat over a D flat. So if you put like that note in there. It doesn't change the sound 1 iota because that's what's being implied. Even though there's no E flats, this is very much what's being implied. And the part of that is just the repetition, like this bass figure being repeated. Your ear kind of carries over like, oh yeah, this is implying E flat and this sounds like E flat, and now here it still sounds like E flat with this little different descending bass thing. And that's also, it's a common trope to have the tonic chord with a descending bass underneath it. Yeah, and so here's the same thing. Oh no, not the same thing. This is a C. This is an F minor over C type thing. Yeah, and there's no E flats in the bar or anything. It's just very much outlining an F minor with a C in the bass. So that's what it'll sound like, and that's what we'll put. And then here we got, so it's like an F minor flat 5, or F, whatever, half diminished with the C flat in the bass. C flat, I hate it so much. Now here's the thing. Because we have this like F resolving down to an E flat, that's a very common minor 4 chord trick where you have, let's see, I'll try and play it here. You got so we're in E flat. You got your 4 minor chord. It's like an appoggiatura or whatever, the accented dissonance of the 6th that resolves down to the 5th, which is part of the chord. So it's, even though it's like technically an F diminished or maybe an F half diminished, it sounds more like a minor 4 chord. So we could put F half diminished over a C flat, but since it's over a bass note anyway, like we may as well just put A flat minor 6 over C flat, because that's what it is. Over C and B. Because functionally, that's more like the minor 4/6 chord is a lot more common than the half diminished 2 chord, even though the half diminished 2 chord is pretty common too. And I mean, it's coming from a 2 chord, so maybe we should put the half diminished over C flat like that. But this really does, yeah, because it's, yeah, sure, that's what we'll do. So forget everything I just said. Yeah, Yeah, and you don't have to worry about this because this is part of like a little chromatic approach to the next note here. So it's not really part of the chord. And this is the same thing. It looks like it's going to just repeat the same thing again. So we'll just copy, paste. Yeah, boom. I love this part. Well, let's play from here. So nice. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, no spoilers. I love this part. I love this song. This song is so beautiful. It just gets me going. So what is this? This C? Why is that? Why do we need accidentals there? Yeah, so here we have, it's an A flat, jumps up to an F, to an E. And A flat and C in the thing here, so it's an A flat chord. You could say it's an A flat 6. But, well, I guess, why not, eh? A flat 6. That's kind of a cool move. A flat minor 6 to A flat 6 usually goes the other way around. Maybe I'll put major 7 actually. Because that's... I'll just put A flat. You know what? Whatever. What am I doing? Oh yeah, okay. So then we have B flat. Just B flat, I think. Because what is this? That's is that an E flat? Oh, I see, yeah. But that's just melodic. Like in the accompaniment, we see the immediately outlining the triad, you know. So yeah, A flat to B flat. That's pretty standard. That's pretty easy to figure out. Oh, and then here we start adding the 7 into the arpeggio, and the bass has the 7 here. So we'll change it to B flat 7. We'll see if that sounds like what it is. Yeah, that sounds fine. That looks right, eh? Then we have G. That's kind of cool. I transcribed this one a while ago, so it's like a G minor. Yeah, could put G minor 7, I guess. But you know, why would you? There's also this natural 9 here. Oh, maybe we should put G minor 9. Does that sound better? And the reason why, it's such a small note, right? It's just one accidental. Usually I'd say, oh yeah, that's not part of the chord. But it changes the whole vibe of the bar once you hear it. You know what I mean? Because there's no A flats. Your brain's assuming we're operating in a key and scale where A flats exist, but they're just not here because there have been A flats previously. But then with this, it's like what I was talking about before, the innocent till proven guilty. Now that we hear this A natural, we're like, oh, I guess we're not operating in that scale with A flats. We're operating in some key with A naturals. But it happens right at the very end of the bar, so I probably won't change the chord actually. Because it would be what? It's very Chrono Trigger. No, that's not what it sounds like, so I'm not going to put it. Just going to put G minor. And then this is a C. Going F, G. Very nice move. That's so cool, because it implies you're like... You're hearing that C come next, but it doesn't actually play it. It leaves it up to your ear. Because they really don't have the... you know, notes to spare to resolve that one for you, so you just gotta, you know, hear it in your mind, which I think maybe is what makes this piece sound so magical, you know, like so much of this old Pokemon music leaves stuff up to your imagination musically. So this is C minor, pretty straightforward, just see the arpeggios here. And then the same thing again, it looks like. So we'll just repeat. Oops, I might. Nah, whatever. I'm not gonna change anything that I already did. Now this is cool. Got this tritone here. Moving up to this tritone. So this is obviously a B flat chord, you know. And what is that? It's so high up. It's a G. Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wants to just not say anything here. Well, no, this is a D and A flat. That very much implies a B flat 7 because those are the money notes, you know. Like if you have whatever, your B flat 7. To E flat, if you just take out, say you get the exact same effect, just less full. So maybe I'll just label this whole bar as being B flat 7, except for this weird thing. It's kind of like B flat. If I was really analyzing it, I would do this, because it's like trading through. This is the same thing. This tritone kind of implies an F7, and then this is a B flat chord, obviously, you know. So it's like a secondary dominant, like embellishment of the 5 chord. Then the 5 chord leads to the 1 over here. But again, this is such a quick thing that I don't think it's worth putting in the chord symbol. I like to stick to 1 chord symbol per bar if possible, or 2 per bar if it's like an obvious, if that's the harmonic rhythm, you know. Anyways, moving on. Let's wrap this up, eh? Okay. Oh, that's so I love this chromatic thing here. Oh, it's so beautiful. Frick, y'all. But yeah, again, like this sort of chromatic line is clearly just like not part of the chord. It's just an embellishment. This is the overall harmony, same as before. And this is just a variation on that same progression. And it is so nice. Holy moly. Not to harp on it, but you know, it's probably the exact same. So copy paste this again. Oh, okay. Well, let's listen to. I'll give you some build up here. Listen to the whole last part. That's nice. Holy moly. Yeah, man. I love it. This I'm tempted to make into an A flat minor, because the bass outlines an A flat minor chord. Maybe that's what I'll do. Does it do that earlier too? No. Well, sort of. Yeah, it does. I'm changing it. And part of me wants to change the old one too for, you know, the one that happened earlier. Should I even put the 6 in? There's not really. Yeah, why not? Because there's the 6, and that's the trope, you know, the 4 minor 6 chord. Now this is kind of weird. It's clearly still A flat minor over C flat, but just the low fourths here is very strange. The tritone, you know. But whatever. Let's keep it. Probably, I guess it's a new line. Yeah, we'll do that. Unless this all fits on one line without looking like trash, in which case, oh yeah, we don't need an extra chord symbol there. Do that. Just make sure everything looks peachy. Cool. And then that, that it's like a predominant chord as well as a modal mixture, thing. So it sets up the intro super nicely. I just want to hear that one more time. And the way it brings it down too, like, brings it down. So it's kind of in a low place, and then we get these weird low fourths for the first time in the whole piece, and it's like, but then it builds back up, and then as it builds back up, we hit here, which is itself a build up, so it's just one extra long build up. Unreal. So yeah, hopefully that was a little bit helpful for you if you're someone who's confused about chord, how to label chords. Hopefully that didn't confuse you more, because I know the way I think about it is a little bit weird. But hopefully it was interesting, at least thinking of chord symbols more as like a general harmonic signposting rather than actually what is being played literally note for note, I think that's more, it's more helpful for me for my purposes, and it looks a lot cleaner too than trying to write down every single thing. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Look forward to a new episode of 8-Bit Music Theory happening very soon. Alright, see you guys.